I've always said this, one of the complicating factors of simple music is you can't make mistakes.
Yeah, it's true.
The busier that it is, the less it's almost you can afford to be a little less precise because it's going by so quickly that that particular palm muted chunk doesn't need to be right on the money. That particular trem pick doesn't necessarily be right on the money because you're on to something else and it's not like this big thing. But when you're just doing 3 chords trem picked, why those better be some pure ass chords. Otherwise, it's going to sound like garbage.
This is Tom from Ghost Cult, and we are delighted to be joined by Mark Kloeppel of Scour and also Misery Index. But we are particularly talking about the forthcoming debut album by Scour, Gold, which is going to be coming out on Housecore Records and Nuclear Blast Records. Mark, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, all that information is correct.
That's a good start then. One quick incidental thing. I was thinking about your name and I was wondering, is that German in origin?
Yeah, it's German. Rhineland kind of area. Ancestors are out of Koblenz originally. So they kept intermingling with Irish folks. This kind of happened. Kind of like some back and forth between Germany and Ireland. Not sure what the cause of all that was. Then they all ended up, a whole bunch of families ended up migrating to southern Missouri in like the 1700s. So I live in Columbia, Missouri, where the University of Missouri is, and so I go down. There's a big Kloeppel family reunion every year in October down there. So the graveyard's there, and it has like the graves of like the first like set of brothers that came over, like
wow.
1700s. So, but yeah, German origin.
That's cool that you kind of know your family history in that way. Like how sort of meaningful is that for you to think about where you come from in terms of your ancestry?
I don't know why it's meaningful to me, but it is. It feels right to know those things and to be in touch with that kind of stuff and to just kind of know where your bloodline's actually coming from. You know, there I suppose like socially there's a lot of generalizations and like race type things that are thrown around a bunch. So I think it's important maybe for everyone to understand that you don't actually belong in any of those categories that are being thrust upon you.
Yep.
That is some made up bullshit. And none of the stuff surrounding it or the implications thereof apply to you at all.
Yeah, totally. And I think in general, just like it's good to have a sort of, even if not to necessarily be multicultural, but have kind of like a multicultural understanding. You know, I think the more places that you sort of get involved with, the more you do sort of just see things as being all intermingled rather than particularly distinct from each other.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, like, you know, I'm a mutt. I'm 100% mutt, but like everybody is.
Yeah.
Everybody is. We've been migrating out of Africa for, a pretty long time now. Settling in different places and then coming back together through, transportation systems, basically. And here we are.
Indeed. And as we're talking about traveling, where are you actually traveling to at the moment?
I'm just kind of running around doing some personal errands and stuff.
All right. Okay. It's not on some great long voyage that you're driving for like 8 hours.
No, no, I'm driving for another 20 minutes or so.
All right, cool. Yeah. So, I wanted to talk about the new album, obviously, the forthcoming album at this point. And I really enjoy not only the intensity of the record, but I like the variety that's in there as well. It's like in the beginning, it's a barrage, but there's also a lot of interesting different, interludes. There's some kind of like more heavy metal guitars that pop up from time to time. There's some maybe death metal elements. Like I really like as well, one of the later tracks, Angels, where you've got, are those violins that you've got in that track there?
I believe so. Yeah. I had nothing to do with creation. That was all John and Philip.
Okay. And I was thinking, in terms of the guitars, like there's some quite notable guitar solos, like on Coin and Infusorium. How should we, the listeners, know when the solos or the guitar playing in general are you versus Derek Engerman?
Okay, so Derek writes everything. He's the primary songwriter in the band. Philip writes all the vocals and the lyrics. The Coin solo is Gary from Slayer Exodus.
Ah, that's right. Because I remember Gary was on the album, but I didn't know what he actually played.
Right, right. So as far as like the rhythms go, it's like, Derek's on one side and I'm on the other kind of thing. But yeah, the solo and Infosorium, that's me. And but yeah, we're basically just playing Derek's stuff essentially. Now during the writing process, like he and I and then he and John and then he and Philip sort of kind of not exactly in that order, but he'll seek our input and feedback on things individually. Adam too. I didn't mean to exclude Adam, but like he'll bounce ideas off all of us individually, but it's not like a group conversation. So it's a different approach. It's sort of like he's the conceptual guy, but when it comes to the lyric concept stuff, that's all Philip. When it comes to the solos, yes, solo, that's me. And on this album, there's just one. So surprising, not surprising. Our group here are not great fans of guitar solos in general.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a strange juxtaposition for me, being the lead guitar player from the band and not really liking guitar solos. I don't like gratuitous shredding. I don't like tons of notes and technical shits just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
It does need to be a song within a song. It does have to have like a climax and a conclusion and some catchy melodic stuff. If it's going to go fast, there needs to be a reason for that. And, and there's been some people that have made some really great solos just like that in the past. Kirk Hammett's one, Dimebag Darrell, of course, is another.
Yep.
And that's sort of the standard. If the song's not calling for it, we're not forcing it in. It's a pretty minimalist style that has origins in like the sort of like the foundational parts of black metal, more like the punk roots, we'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that stuff doesn't really lend it. It doesn't really call for it a lot.
Yep.
Another thing you mentioned was like the style itself. On this album, there seems to be like more stuff, more elements going on, and it's. When it started, it was kind of like basically what it was. It was like taking that punk beginning of black metal, a la Bathory, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then doing that minimalist style that we felt like had been lost over the years, like and how like black metal's progressed and like being symphonic and all this other.
Yeah, it's definitely you're not playing Dimmu Borgir.
Hey man, and nothing against Dimmu Borgir. I mean, more power to them. They're great. Behemoth's great. But this is more of a cult affair.
Yeah.
And so it's trying to do that, and then also have like some modern kind of like atmospheres over the top. So that's kind of like our unique blend of stuff. And then on this new record, yeah, we threw in we got away from the utter minimalism, because it used to be that every riff was like 3-4 notes tops.
Yeah,
you're just buzzsawing 3 or 4 chords and on to the next 2 or 3, and maybe like an overlay of some sort, and maybe like the overlay like mimics the rhythmic melody that's under the vocals, and it kind of goes back and forth like that. There's some stuff like that at play. But yeah, on the new one, there's a little bit more variance, a little bit more action going on there. It was just called for it on something like a full length album that's a little more grander in scope.
Yeah.
We started hinting at that on the Black album, or the Black EP, I should say, and then it's more developed on this one. And again, I give that all to Derek. He's the writer. We all had our input, suggestions, things like that, but he's the main dude. So.
So you mentioned how, kind of like the primary element that people are going to hear in the band is black metal. And you've talked about sort of the particular origins of black metal that you're mostly feeding on in the band. I'm kind of curious to know for you, and maybe if for the other guys in general, like what was sort of your introduction to black metal, and what was it that particularly grabbed you? Because obviously you've all got a variety of of experiences playing extreme metal, but not necessarily black metal. So, yeah, what particularly in black metal drew you in?
Well, if I'm being like 100% honest, like from way back, like I don't know what year, like year or whatever, early teenager.
Yeah,
It was Cradle of Filth for sure. I heard, like Cruelty and the Beast and like Midian and shit like that. Like that was, and we're not gonna. I don't know if we can expressly call that black metal, but it is. But that was my introduction to corpse paint, that kind of style, dark atmospheres, things like that. That was my first introduction, and
yeah.
I was definitely digging that stuff. I wasn't so much into the primitive stuff at first. I sort of, got into them, got into Demu, and then kind of worked backwards. You know,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. I wish I could say that, I'm like super cool and like was listening to some fucking Bathory and shit in the 80s, but like that wasn't.
Yeah, look, I was listening to Roxette when I was about 12, so at a certain point I just decided I have to own it.
Fuck yeah, man.
Good songwriting.
But yeah, like I said, I don't write those songs.
Yeah.
Like, that's he's obviously and various others like we together like got into some like more folky stuff, like Wintersorg and on the American side like Agalock and things like that, and which is that's sort of like in the periphery
Yeah.
of that stuff. But yeah, man.
And in terms of playing, you've been, I think, in bands since about 1995. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So at this stage, when you've been playing guitar for, I mean, I guess you've been playing guitar for a lot longer than that, but you've been in bands for almost 30 years. Are you still regularly practicing guitar, or are you performing so much that that's kind of your practice?
Oh no, I play every day. Why wouldn't you? Playing
So
guitar
what?
is fun
Yeah. So like, what's your kind of routine with practicing?
whatsoever.
You
It's
just pick it
got
up.
I have guitar hangers on the wall, around with something, running scales if that's what I'm working on. If I have shows and stuff coming up, I'll run the set,
Yeah.
two, three times. If I definitely have shows coming up like a month out, I'll be, taking an hour out of each day to run the set. And, and also just like always writing, pulling it down off the wall, and, creativity strikes like my studio, kind of like home studio sitting right there. So plug right in and capture the moment. And, so you can sift through all the riffs later kind of thing.
And in terms of kind of like the difficulty or the complexity of what you're playing in Scour, like, Misery Index is pretty intense. Would you say that it's kind of like similar difficulty level, or does Scour have any particular challenges for you?
Equal difficulty for different reasons. Misery Index, I mean, it literally has a different picking style.
Mm-hmm.
I literally have to hold my pick in my hand differently for each band, because it's just a different set of stuff that's happening. So, for Scour, it's like, my picking it's like a closed fist, and for Misery Index, it's more of like open-handed, where I'm like bringing these in and out and counterweight kind of stuff, and like really having that available for a lot of like on and off muting.
Okay.
Because it's more death metal. It's death grind, so it's got a lot of precision stuff and a lot of like chunk open kind of stuff, going back and forth like that. Whereas like Scour's, and there's like a lot of, in Misery Index, there's a lot of single note, single string, or a couple strings like trim picking melodic part, a la Morbid Angel, sort of, so to speak. So, but in Scour, it's a lot of it's an hour, like the set's like an hour and a half trim picking only, with the occasional palm mute, and it's big chord trim. It's not single string or string skipping. It's big chords, so you have to like get multiple strings, and you're picking very fast and for a long period of time. And so your economy of motion has to be pretty on point. Your breathing has to be on point. Your shoulder cannot be tensed up for that. There has to be a steady flow. If you allow that kind of stuff to happen, your hand's going to go dead. That's just what happens when your muscles run out of oxygen, right? So you have to, with Scour, it's like definitely an efficiency thing. You got to mind, your intensity level, because, especially when you get in a live show and you got Phil Anselmo standing over there delivering the goods, like you could get pretty inspired and overdo it. You're head banging and you're really like digging in, with both hands. And man, you better, I basically talking to myself now. You better watch that, because you can expel more oxygen than you can get to your limbs.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you get cramps, it just shuts down, and you can't have that happening in the middle of a show or a rehearsal for that matter. So misery index, I would say there's more, it's not breaks really, but there's more of a variance in what's going on, that you're not wearing out the same muscles at, just like grinding on the same set of like tendons and muscles going back and forth super fast for an extended period of time. It's like it's broken up, and that's got a shitload of down picking. So it's got its own set of challenges.
Yeah.
Surprisingly equal, because Scour does not sound. It doesn't sound that hard. It doesn't sound like that hard of a music. I mean, to me, to some other people, it might sound really fucking intense. And yeah, that's the
I think it sounds pretty hard.
point. But I mean, maybe for a guitar player, like that's just like 4 or 5 chords, swinging around. Whatever, I can play that right now. But yeah, to go ahead and try.
Yeah, indeed. I guess in a way, like it's a little bit like I can't remember who it was, but I think I remember one of the guitarists from Iron Maiden saying at one point that part of the thing with playing Iron Maiden tunes, it's not the riffs themselves aren't necessarily that complicated, but it's the actual physical stamina that you need to be able to play these parts round and round and round and round and round. It's like
exactly.
It's a lot of physical work.
Yeah, and to be precise with it too.
Yep.
And I've always said this. One of the complicating factors of simple music is you can't make mistakes.
Yeah, it's true.
The busier that it is, the less. It's almost you can afford to be a little less precise, because it's going by so quickly that that particular palm muted chunk doesn't need to be right on the money. That particular trem pick doesn't necessarily be right on the money, because you're on to something else, and it's not like this big thing. But when you're just doing 3 chords trem picked, why those better be some pure ass chords. Otherwise, it's going to sound like garbage.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's got to be even picking. You can't be digging in too much. You can't be too light. And it's just got to be even the whole time, and like for the whole like hour and a half set.
Yeah, for sure. Now, going back a bit, so you and Adam Jarvis are both in Misery Index together, and I guess you've been playing together since the early 2000s. Is that right?
Well, yes.
So
did you mention it? Yeah.
So how far back do you two go, and how far back do you go with the rest of the guys? Like, how did you sort of come to know all the guys in the band?
Well, we're all from St. Louis, Missouri, and so like around the very early 2000s, like Adam Jarvis and his cousin John were in a band called All Will Fall, and we used to play, a bunch of venues around the St. Louis, Galaxy, Creepy Crawl, Pops, etc. And I was in a band with Derek called Cast the Stone, and we were on a lot of the same shows together, especially like when tour packages come through. We were the local bands that would get added, like the extreme stuff, and we always regarded we were the bands playing like solid blast beats and stuff, and being really extreme about shit, and like not cheesing the drums, and not like typical what I would call like typical like Midwestern tropes that were happening at the time, where people were like, I don't know, ripping off Pantera, Slipknot type shit. You know what I mean? Working new metal stuff in there, like, and then trying to play blast beats with it, not really knowing how to put a song together. So we sort of we regarded each other very highly. And so through the years, like, Adam got in Misery Index, and then when they were looking for a guitar player, he hit me up. Got in Cattle Decapitation. John Jarvis got in Agoraphobic Nosebleed and Pig Destroyer for a while. He was doing tour managing for Cattle Decap with Derek, and that's when they started doing the Scour thing.
Yeah.
Derek and John and Adam were doing a side project with their homie from Illinois called Fulgora. They released some stuff, and organically Philip caught wind of it. I guess that was like 2015 or earlier. I can't remember exactly. So that's how they met. Adam and John met Philip. through Fulgora. So when Derek came up with the Scour stuff with John, John's like, well, I'm going to see if Philip wants to sing on this, because why wouldn't we?
Sure.
And instead of ignoring it or saying no, Philip said, I'll kill it. And to their ultimate surprise, like, what? You actually want to do this? Okay. So they didn't start with me in the band, and actually Jesse, from the drummer from Cast of Stone, is on the first Scour EP. For whatever reason that didn't work out, and they had another guitar player. He didn't work out, so they called Adam in. Adam's on the Red EP. The other guitar player didn't work out, so they, there I am. Like we've known each other for a billion years, and they know I'm good and reliable. And Adam and I have played together for years, so
yeah,
they called me in, and if like I'm being honest, like at that time, for years I had been kind of like, more of a Hetfield than a Hammett, we'll say.
okay.
I hadn't spent a lot of time dealing with like the shred stuff. Like I know my scales, and I know my rudiments, and like I know what to do and how to put stuff together, but just doing Misery Index like pretty nonstop for so many years, like I was primarily focused on like riff writing and singing and playing and that aspect. And that's not to say I couldn't go rip a solo, but I was just like I wasn't like, there just wasn't part of my daily thing of what my focus was. I was, writing like at least half the records since I was in the band. So it was mainly like trying to come up with the good shit and being able to, and writing some lyrics too, and being able to sing and play and that type of stuff. So coming into Scour, that was like, somewhat of a challenge. I was stoked on the invite. Of course, I said yes. Sent a bunch of reasons why I was a great idea. Thanks for asking. And yeah, man. Ultimately, it's just like, slow it down. It's just one note after the other. You can figure it out. And yeah. So the fast forward to now, we're on the band. Who knew that we were going to get as far as like releasing a full length album? Because it's always like, oh, Pantera's back. Well,
see you in a while.
Well, see you in a little while, I guess. But yeah, as it were, like now, like Philip's more like stoked than ever on what we're doing together, and we're really like coming together as a unit, feeling the brotherhood there, and making the record together like throughout like past couple of years was pretty cool. It's hard to believe it was a couple of years. We went down in like February 23 to record, and down at the Nosferatu Slayer down on his property, and then we were like getting mixes all throughout that year. He finally like he recorded his vocals in November, and then in February we were like jumping in on different dates on the Pantera tour, and like we were recording backup vocals and reviewing mixes in the backstage rooms of the Pantera tour, which is
yeah
pretty cool. But yeah, man, everyone's pretty stoked on everything, and I got to lay down a solo on this one, and everyone thought it was cool, so
yeah,
great
sure.
success.
And what about like you mentioned playing and recording in Phil Anselmo's property? What's that like as a place to play and record?
Oh, I mean, it's like we call it heavy metal camp. That's a great place, man. It's like out in the pines and swamp, and quiet out there. A lot of room to be creative and think, and come together on things. It's nice to get isolated out there with your brothers, and and bond and come together on things and get in the studio and produce stuff. I can recall a few times like where we were doing, I can't remember what we were recording. So it's ending one of the songs where there's like some solo dive bomb kind of basically noise, but cool noise. And Philip was standing there like telling me what dive bomb to do, and just follow my hand. So and he calls them sweeties. We call them tasties, and he was calling them sweeties. So like, oh, sweetie, that's what we call them. It's like, all right. I guess in down or something they call it like, and cool little ending tags, little trinkets.
Okay.
Adorn like a little woo, a little pitch harmonic, a little dive bomb here and there. Call them sweeties.
There's something that seems kind of cute about Scour and the kind of like tone of the music that you have little sweeties popped in here
Yeah,
and there.
we got some sweeties in there.
And something I wanted to ask you, like, and this is maybe a bit difficult putting you on the spot, but thinking about Phil Anselmo as a vocalist, I was thinking, you know, if you met someone, probably someone younger who just didn't know Phil Anselmo as a vocalist, and you'd be like, right, I'm going to play them something to show them like what an amazing vocalist he is. Would you be able to pick something out? You'd go, right, I think I'd go for this tune or this performance from the, you know, all the different stuff that he's done over the years.
Like the one that's really an exemplar of what he can do. I mean, you'd have to pick like a variety of tracks because he's got like a pretty varied range of stuff. You know, people comment on that all the time because they've heard him sing. You know, they've heard him sing "Cemetery Gates," and now they're hearing him do "Floods" live, which is insane. And then they go and hear "Infusorium."
Yes.
You know, where it's like, you know, just deep Frank Mullins suffocation level guttural vocals mixed with, you know, pretty clear audible high vocals too. And it's all fair. The dictation is always pretty good, man. Yep. It's not like we're, you know, marble mouth or whatever. It's
totally. Yeah.
You can if your ear is tuned to that kind of music, you have no problem understanding what he has to say.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that like when I was watching the video for Blades, and I was like, oh yeah, like I'm following what he's saying.
I could hear what he is saying. I understand the lyrics. Yeah, man, he can do it all. He can do it all.
It's funny.
He can
I remember
still sing "Cowboys from Hell" live.
Yeah,
and then he can then proceed to do super gutturals, and then like the more like, you know, Southern rock inspired like down stuff.
Yep,
they're recording a record now. I mean,
oh, that's good to know.
The dude, yeah, it's been in the news. The dude can do it all.
Or N minor as well, another totally different
direction. N minor. I that's a whole other like the Americana kind of thing.
Yeah, to your point about Cowboys from Hell, I remember when I was a teenager, I had some friends that were really into like Vulgar Display of Power and Far Beyond Driven. And I remember I was like, they hadn't heard Cowboys from Hell. So I remember I was like trying to like sing Cowboys from Hell. They're like, there's no fucking way that's Pantera. That's not Phil Anselmo. He doesn't sing like that.
I know. Yeah. I remember that too, because obviously like I heard Vulgar first as well. And then Far Beyond Driven. And, you know, it was Strength Beyond Strength comes on track number 1. When I first heard that, I was like, that was almost too heavy for me as a person. You know, like I was just like, whoa, I just skipped it a few times, you know, like get onto the like, oh, yeah, I get that. That's cool. You know, and so on and so forth. And it took me a while to once you catch that vibe, or it's like, that's heavier. Wait a minute, that's heavier. And then it inspires you to seek out heavier and heavier. That band, that song is the reason I started seeking out death metal, because I wanted heavier and heavier. And it's that song. It kind of like that you heard it and it scared you. It was so fucking heavy. And then you got used to it and you're like, I need heavier.
Exactly.
But yeah, I do remember like, you know, then after hearing all that shit, then like hearing Cowboys from Hell, like the whole record. And it's like, okay, doing some 80s vocals, I see. some falsetto here. Well, that's a twist.
It definitely is a twist. You know? And going back to Scour and just thinking about what you've got coming up. So obviously, like as we've talked about, you know, Phil in particular has got a whole bunch of different projects he's doing. He said he's recording a down album just now. Is there going to be an opportunity for you to be playing and touring around the release of the Scour album?
I don't know. We're doing on Sunday, May 18th, we're doing Milwaukee Metal Fest. The Pantera schedule is pretty packed this year. But we do have some opportunities getting kicked around, and we're just going to kind of see what the cat drags in as everyone's availability works out, man.
Yeah. No possibility that Phil wants to do support band Scour before Pantera come on stage. That might be a bit much for the vocal cords in one night.
No, probably not. I would never even mention that idea.
It's not really for the same crowd, I suppose, necessarily. Like obviously a lot of people can like both, but you wouldn't necessarily expect to hear Scour if you're going to go and see Pantera.
I mean, that whole idea is just kind of weird to me. And two, for him, like it just wouldn't be a good idea. Like he's got so much stuff to do in that Pantera set.
Yep.
I would hate to be. I mean, they would never do that anyway. They would never do like a band of his in front of a band of his. That wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
But yeah, man, like you don't want to do anything to compromise your vocals. That is a far different style. It's one thing to be able to do all that stuff. It's a far different thing to do it back to back live.
True. And probably in that order as well is
end.
probably even more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he couldn't do it. Shit, maybe he could. I don't really know. I've never, I don't know, but it would be tough, I think. And you just wouldn't want that. Like, you wouldn't want him screaming his ass off and then like performing a Pantera song poorly after that.
True.
Like, nobody wants that. Why do that? Why even like create the situation where that would be possible? I mean, he's going out there now, and in my opinion, I saw Pantera a bunch of times, back then. There's some stuff he's doing now that's better than what he was doing then. Really accurate and on point on a lot of things, man. Versus back then it was more like visceral, raw energy, and just like it's just coming out of him and like at 100% velocity kind of thing. And this time around, it's like it's more clinical, and I can appreciate both approaches, but like it's really fucking impressive to see him doing that.
Yeah.
Right now.
And then in terms for you, just generally, like what other things have you got going on musically? Like I always feel like when I'm talking to someone in a band and they've got an album coming out, usually they recorded it sometime before. So you've probably been in the midst of doing a whole bunch of different things since you recorded the Scour album. So like what's coming up for you in the coming months? I'm
just wrestling the bear that is the next Misery Index record.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of pretty awesome, I think they're awesome. Pretty awesome ideas. It's a new kind of original mix of stuff that we've not done in the past, and I got about 8 songs, and one of them is all the way through to completion, and like so I can see what the style change looks like in one full song to completion, and it's like we got that done, and it's just like, and everyone in the band's like, okay, wow, that's it. That's it. That's like not the template, not that you'd model every song after that, but the vibe and the sonic characteristic and that kind of stuff. It's like, that's it. And so once you get there with an album, you get like that's it. Then you can kind of like usher the other ones to more of like a completed state, because it's not that you're copying that format or anything, but like your brain now knows what this new stylistic version of the band sounds like at completion, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, you kind of got an idea of the sort of musical world that you're in, the kind of tone.
Right. Yeah, because like if we're talking Misery Index, Killing Gods is a massively different album than Rituals of Power. It's a massively different album from Heirs to Thievery and Traitors. Like they're all like in their own. They share a lot of DNA, but they have like their own going on. Different things going on. Our last album, Complete Control, was a bit of a retrospective of everything we had done up to that point. Not too many surprises, so this next one needed to have some surprises and show like a good amount of growth, and it does, and it's going to be fucking killer. But yeah, when you ask like what I've been working on that. I also have another secret project that I'm not gonna spoil it at this point, but
all right, cool.
I do have a secret. You got a secret one.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing the Misery Index album when it comes out, and I'm looking forward to finding out what the secret project is. And
oh yeah, it's going to be cool.
And I am enjoying Scour album a lot, and I hope that people enjoy it when it comes out. I hope it gets a very good reception. And you said you're going to be playing. I forgot the name of the festival, but in May the 18th, was it that you said?
Yeah, Milwaukee Metal Fest in Milwaukee.
Funnily enough,
yeah, it's that was at one time like the only metal fest in the United States, and Jamie Josta got the name and resurrected it and put it all back together, and like him and his crew are doing a great job of keeping that rolling, man. It's really killer. Excellent. But yeah, I guess for Scour, in the meantime, till this damn thing comes out, go check out the Infusorium music video and the Blades music video. Infusorium was the very first video I ever like done any screenwriting for.
Mm-hmm.
That's a short story by a New Orleans horror author named John Paget by the same title. I did like some adapting to screen, and then Derek and Malcolm, the videographer, and I spent, I don't know, probably a total of 15 hours sitting around a kitchen table, shot listing, and then shot listing to the story, and then turning around and shot listing to the song, making sure everything went with each other, and then getting the actors, getting the props, and then doing the shots over like a couple days. So that was the first time like I had ever done anything that I'd never been like that involved in the production of a music video before, nor did I expect Phil Anselmo to participate in our very DIY music video production practices, where we just made it up. And then and the second one is just like it's done in his haunt,
right, okay.
house score home haunt. I would just use that as a set, which in theory you would think, oh yeah, that's super easy, they just go in there and shoot. Not so. You have to like go through each room and make sure there's not like some kind of inexpensive, you know, just something that's not suitable for a music video.
Yeah, like a random shopping bag.
Yeah, that's just like, it's in the dark, it's there and it's cool. But when it's lit, when you start lighting it up, it's like, that looks like it came from the Halloween store. And you get rid of that. But then, and then lighting it right, it turned into a whole process of like, oh, it'd be really easy. It's like, it was easier than the first one, but it wasn't easy. But yeah, that ended up turning out pretty cool as well.
And having had that experience with Infosorium, did it make you feel like you'd like to do more of that in the future?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, we'd like to go crazy on that in the future.
Yeah,
you know, full on like mini horror movie. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. That might be a little overzealous, but we did. I mean, because I can already calculate the amount of work it's going to take.
Yeah.
It's going to be like a month for 20 minutes kind of thing. But we did get a taste for it, and we did an okay job. I mean, the end result, it's not like some cinematic masterpiece, but it's got some clever uses of things and clever and effective uses of stuff. When it flips to color, just as she lights a Zippo lighter, and the flame is in color, but everything else is still, it's a black and white all the way up into that point, and she lights the Zippo, and then like the flame's in color.
Yeah.
And then thereafter she drops it, and then everything bursts into color. So using that, we were able to give this intensity of like, the house is on fire now, and you feel like it's on fire, but we didn't actually have to light the house on fire. It's, I like doing cool stuff like that. It'd be nice to do more. Anyways, I'll stop blabbing on about it.
No, it's really cool. That's great insight, and I'm looking forward to going back and watching the video now that I know the involvement that you had in with it. It's very cool.
Yeah, man. Well, everybody did. I mean, I wrote the initial thing. I sent it over in an email to Philip. Didn't get a reply. If it's it doesn't like long emails. And I put a preface like, it might be a long one. John told me he liked it, and he like showed it to him, and he was just like, look at this. So I got like the approval from the other guys, and and then we ended up working out the details. It's like, you look at that, it's like immediately you're like, how are we going to do that? I mean, and some of it requires a green screen. So, you had to get your action, how you're going to solve these problems, get your action plan together. That part was fun. And we were able to fucking pull it off in a couple days. And, and it took all of us. It took me, it took Malcolm, it took Derek, took John, took Adam, took Philip, took everybody to make it happen. Our two actors, they did really great. We got so lucky with them, man. They just took direction really well. That can be a nightmare. Like at the very end when she's suspended in air, like to get that shot, it's like kind of awkward, to tell an actress like, I need you to, like mouth agape, dead stare, like head tilted to the left, and you have to animate this as you're going. You're not actually moving up, like you're moving up. So that.
Yeah.
Same with the fight scene. At first they were like, look like some middle schoolers at a school dance or something, way arms extended as far as possible. I was like, no, you're gonna have to I was like 90-degree elbows is as far as you go, and I really need you to struggle around, I was like, this is going to be a close shot. I got to get both your faces in there, you know. So bring it in even further if you can, you know. But dude, we had to say that maybe one time, and then we did it. Oh, and that was great. Let's get another one, and it was great again. And it's like you can't ask for more than that out of people, you know.
Yeah.
So they made like for that shot, which if you had someone that didn't take good direction would take all damn day just to get the right take. They took direction really well, and it was like, that's it. You're looking at the screen like, yep, that's it, and yeah, it worked out well. There's a lot of stuff that we got like within a take or two that I thought I was like, this is going to take a while for them, you know, for them to get it right. But yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised. It was like three takes max on basically anything.
Yeah,
pretty cool, man. I gotta give them a little round of applause, you know, like high fives. They made it go really quick.
Well, I was going to say maybe you want to keep their contact details as well for when you do get round to making your 20-minute video.
Oh yeah, they're in the inner circle, you know, we know them. So yeah, which is, you know, they're just kind of sort of friends, acquaintances kind of thing. So I was like really surprised at the level of professionalism they exuded and like how efficient they were at doing this. It was like, man, it's like y'all been doing this for years. You know what I mean? It was cool.
Well, Mark, it was an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. It was, I really enjoyed talking to you.
Likewise, man. Maybe we can do this again sometime.
I will look forward to it.
Cool, man. Cheers.
All the best, man.
Yeah, dude.